Good evening. There we go. All right. Good evening. Do we want to approve the minutes from the Parks and Recreation Board from the Thursday, March 13th?
I'll move.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. The minutes have been approved. Next, we'll have, do we want to go into reports for the Parks and Recs Board?
Good evening, everybody. So a couple park-based updates before I jump into a little bit on programming and events. I wanted to update Monday night at the upcoming April 14th Board of Commissioners meeting. There will be two items on the agenda. One has to do with Fenimore, which I'll get to once we get to the Fenimore portion of our business agenda. The other is we're going to be hopefully approving the restoration and rehabilitation for the rain gardens that are at Clemacrone Park. There are currently 4 of them, as well as 3 here at the Township building. So that'll be on their agenda. Those are rain gardens that have been installed over the course of the last 5 to 10 years at varying times. I had made a presentation to the EAC in December on those. I know they've been very supportive of getting those rain gardens back on track, so we're excited to get that project moving along. Also, the Willows Park paving project continues, so for anybody who's been in and around the Willows would see there's a lot of machinery around, a lot of big changes happening, given the various parts of the park that they're working on with the entrance drives, the parking lot, the mansion area, behind the mansion area, and the walkways, of course, in and around the pond. Also, at the last Board of Commissioners meeting, Recloth Earth was approved to put one clothing bin over at Radnor Memorial Park, so that'll be tucked away in the parking lot over there. Within the next couple weeks, that will be delivered, so it'll be a clothing and shoes recycling bin. And Recloth Earth is a company that's based here in Bryn Mawr, who we are working with on that project. So if you see a clothing bin up here at Radnor Memorial Park in the parking lot, it was approved, it was authorized by the commissioners, and something we'll be coordinating with Recloth Earth on. Lastly, also, we're in the process of hiring our recreation assistant part-time position. So we believe that person will be hopefully in place next week. And we'll be moving forward. Tracy Kroom is going to be going out on maternity leave in a couple weeks here. She'll end up transitioning from home, and we'll be doing some shuffling around in the department and getting our new hire trained. So we'll be looking forward to that. And then, of course, looking a little bit on the long term, Natalie's going to be going out on maternity leave in September. So we've got a lot of things happening and a lot of missing seats for the course of the remainder of the year, but really excited about the new person that's coming in. So, but we'll talk more about that once the person gets in and hopefully approved and accepts the job and all of that. Then just, Ian, if you could just transition, I want to talk about some of the Arbor Day, Arbor Month activities that are coming up. You probably had seen out on our social media. Every day we're posting not only all the great things that we're doing with programming and upcoming community events, but we also have a lot going on for Arbor Month. Specifically, the Shade Tree Commission is going to be having their annual spring planting. So even though the date here says April 12th, they actually just today decided they're going to reschedule it for April 13th. So they'll be planting trees at the Willows Park at 9 o'clock a.m. This upcoming Sunday. And then, of course, PICO is back again this year with their free tree giveaway. If you want to jump onto our website, if you go to the event section where you see Arbor Day, you'll be able to obtain the link there to be able to go in and sign up for a free tree. And then they're picked up on Friday, April 25th, which is the actual day of Arbor Day over at Warren Philippone Park. And then our Arbor Day celebration is actually going to take place on Arbor Day as well at 10 o'clock a.m. It's going to be a small ceremony. We have Radnor Conservancy will be participating with us, as well as Turin Landscaping is going to be there as well, assisting with some tree plantings. Same area of the willows that's being planted. On the exit drive, there's a back portion to the east side of the park that almost abuts with Skunk Hollow and the Ardrossan property that has traditionally just been cut and is wide open and is going to be completely planted, hopefully on a long term. And this is the start of that project that's happening. We also have Wheels of Wayne coming up Sunday, April 27th. We have the Great American Backyard Campout coming up on Saturday, May 31st. So you can jump online and see lots of great information on that. And lastly, I just wanted to highlight, there was a great recognition, well-deserved recognition and appreciation service that was on behalf of the Second Baptist Church. That took place just this past Sunday to recognize our very own Howard Childs, otherwise known as Reverend Howard Childs. And I wanted to show a couple pictures from the event, and also just say thank you to Reverend Childs for everything that he has done, not only serving here on this board, but everything he's done for the community. I will say the Second Baptist Church is really a great little space for anyone who's looking for a place of worship. Very inspirational and very great place. Would definitely encourage anyone checking it out, and I was happy to be part of his great event on Sunday. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Tammy. Okay, all except for the last part, we want to thank you for everything that you've done. Okay. Board of Commissioners?
Items that you haven't heard about or we're not going to talk about today that's going to happen this Monday at the meeting, that's park-related. There's going to be a vote on a resolution to restore the 4 rain gardens at Clemacrone Park. So that's going to get done. There's also, which I found out the other day, there's 3 rain gardens here at the Township building, like along the driveway. They're also going to get restored. Just letting you know. Thanks.
Thank you. Shade Tree Commission?
I don't have a report on behalf of them this month, just the spring tree planting that's taking place at the Willows on Sunday.
Okay. Any other reports at this time? Okay, any new business? No? Good. We're moving right along here. All right. Old business. Dogs in the township parks.
So this is just a follow-up item to announce that there will be discussion and potential recommendations that will be made on Monday, April 28th at the Board of Commissioners meeting. That will include the proposed resolution that was forwarded along to the Board of Commissioners from the Parks and Recreation Board with regards to the locations where dogs are permitted across the park system. So they will be evaluating that in an ordinance format that would be up for potential introduction. Of course, that would then have to come back for a second meeting in May with potential adoption. So I want to make sure if anybody out there in the dog community is listening, I know a lot of folks have opinions, with regards to that particular resolution, to make sure they attend the Monday, April 28th Board of Commissioners meeting. It'll take place here in this building at 6:30 p.m. And then in addition to that, we anticipate the Board of Commissioners will have a discussion on basically Ordinance 2024-01, which was adopted in February of 2024, that required dogs to be on leash over at Skunk Hollow at the park and the trails on weekends and holidays from 12 o'clock p.m. noon basically through dusk. So that will be up for discussion and review. And I know that I'll be meeting with the township manager and most likely the board president and vice president to discuss that in terms of how those items will be, added to the agenda. But I anticipate, again, it would be an ordinance introduction on the dogs in parks, and then it'll be a discussion on the ordinance, and because it's already been adopted, so it really just would end up being a matter if there would be any changes that will be recommended by the Board of Commissioners on that topic. So that'll be a big meeting. And we'll make sure that we get some information circulated out in our newsletters and posted on the Township website so folks are aware that that's upcoming in a couple weeks.
Okay, for the April 28th meeting, okay. Okay. Arterisio Park, comprehensive?
Yep, so just an update there. We will have 2 public meetings at the Radnor Township Civic Association located at 248 Highland Avenue. So that'll be, those will both be public meetings. We invite everyone to come out, especially the neighbors who live in and around Arterisio Park to attend. That will take the place of our Parks and Recreation Board meetings on Thursday, May 8th, as well as Thursday, June 12th. So both of our upcoming meetings will be there at 6:30 p.m. This will not be a televised meeting because we don't have those capabilities at the site. So just to let people know, but then, we'll have a summary, of course, of the meeting, but really want folks to come out and take a look at the plan, comment on the plan. Hopefully we have some really solid discussion. These 2 meetings will be focused on Arterisio. I don't anticipate we'll be addressing any other matters at those meetings unless there are substantial updates perhaps on any of the other projects that are going on. And there's been a letter that was circulated to the neighbors. Thank you so much to Sharif Abel who helped get those letters out for us. We really appreciate all your time that you put in helping get those out and get those distributed throughout the neighborhood. And information has also been docked at the Township homepage and circulated, of course, through all our newsletters and social media.
Thank you, Sharifa. Any comments? None? Okay. Fenimore Woods Parks and Renovation Project?
On March 31st, we received our bids back for the Radnor stable. I'm sorry, for the Fenimore stable. And the bids are going to be on the agenda for the Board of Commissioners on Monday. I'd mentioned there was a Fenimore item that the board is going to be reviewing, and we're going to be asking them to make a motion to reject the bids. Unfortunately, the bid, we only received 1 bid, and the 1 bid was excessively high. In addition to it being excessively high, it was only for a general contractor. It did not include a bid that came from an electrical prime or a plumbing prime. So this is sort of a 3-pronged multi-prime bid project, which requires a general prime contractor to submit a bid, an electrical prime contractor to submit a bid, and then a plumbing prime contractor to submit a bid. Unfortunately, we only received the general prime. So at this point, given the bid is excessively over the budget, and it's missing 2 additional primes, we're going to be rejecting the bid, and we'll also be subsequently having a discussion with our township solicitor to see if we can craft it into 1 single prime project. And of course, the dictating factor that usually leads to a multiple prime situation for that is what the anticipated cost of those are, and when they exceed certain thresholds, they have to be multi-prime. So I think sometimes there's some flexibility within that. So we're going to see what we can do to change that. And then just in reaching out to some of the contractors, I think some also had some concerns within our responsible contractors ordinance, which was an ordinance that the township adopted back in 2022. That requires some pieces that some of the potential bidders were not able to conform to. So we're going to be taking a closer look at that as well. So what will happen is if the bids are rejected, as we anticipate by the Board of Commissioners on Monday, We'll figure out how the bid will potentially be restructured and then get the project out the bid as soon as possible again. That's the goal. So we're not giving up on the project to have the stable rehabilitated. That is definitely still, within the goal of what we want to achieve. And it does sound like from a lot of the contractors, they're very interested in the project. It's just sometimes a concern when there's multiple contractors involved, they rely on the others to complete work, and then when their work's not completed and those other contractors have to report to the township and not to them, it makes it sometimes a difficult situation and not as attractive to be part of a project structured that way. So we're going to try to work through that project and get it back out to bid as soon as possible. So as of right now, that's really the only update with Fenimore. I know that the Public Works Department's continuing to work on the perimeter post and rail fencing. They had finished and completed the fencing around the playground, and they're working around some of the other parts of the park. We also have new fencing that's going to be installed near the pond that separates the residences on what would be the southern part of the park. So we were working with the residents on the areas where they'll have gates to come in and out of the park. And next week, we anticipate the rest of that fencing is going to start, which will start by a contractor. So the Public Works Department won't perform that portion. That will be on the back of the contractor. So that is underway, as well as the pavilion will hopefully be on the Board of Commissioners' agenda at the first meeting in May for authorization.
Okay. Thank you for that, Tammy. The Radnor Township capital budget for parks and facilities?
Still no update there. Everything's the same in terms of the budget and Park Impact Fund, unless you have any questions. In fact, on the next three items, so the capital budget, Radnor Activity Center, as well as the trail projects, I don't have any updates this month. Everything is as has been previously reported.
Okay. So it's
Would I be out of place? Everything is as reported, and maybe I'm behind the times, but what is the status of these things? I mean, is there a budget, or has it been approved? No, or what? I don't know. I'm Johnny come lately, put it that way, and I apologize, but the Radnor Activity Center at Sulpizio project update. What has been reported, I guess?
Sure.
Is that complex? Or is that
I think I have a similar question. Just, are there any milestone events coming up for Sulpizio? Just anything that we're going to be
So
looking forward
this
to change?
project, so the milestone event that has been achieved on this project is that we engaged a firm to come in and do a review of the facility in terms of all the rehabilitation that is needed. To date, those items have all been reviewed with the Board of Commissioners. So my last report had noted that those were actually reviewed with the commissioners. And we have continued to talk about what the options are going to be moving forward. So we're still in the process of
So that's not,
evaluating where we're,
I was
how
going
we're
to
going
say,
to move
that's
forward.
not in our purview then?
Not
and that's
currently,
fine.
no.
So are there any of these in our purview, let's say that? As far as, is there anything that we have voted on, or is there any money allocated, or like the Radnor Trail extension? What's the status, I guess? And I mean, and if I'm going down the wrong path here, let me know.
Sure, so we had a presentation last year
Okay.
that updated on all those projects.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And where they currently are. So the Radnor Trail extension continues to be in design. In fact, in the next month, we anticipate the second phase of the design, which has to do with the development of the culvert that would
okay.
take the
Okay.
trail under Radnor Chester Road, as
Okay.
well as some of the soils mitigation we had talked about in the extended part of the trail as it goes further east. That is in design and continues to be in design, as well as grant prospects. So parallel,
okay.
we
I got
continue
you. Yeah,
to
okay.
apply for grants, look for grants that ultimately would be able to pay for the construction. Like,
Yeah.
we know there's a hefty construction bill there that's going to follow once the design is completed, which design has been
Yeah,
engaged through
okay.
grants. Those grants tie back to
Yeah.
the 2016 borrowing that we did for park improvements, which is where that money is being utilized, as well
Gotcha.
as some of the improvements that were borrowed in 2019.
Will cost projections be included with that design in June?
They will, and some of those projections had been already discussed.
Okay. Are there multiple levels of possible construction there, the different options for that crossing the road, or is there probably a singular
There was a
plan?
singular one that was voted on by the commissioners and recommended, and
Yeah.
that was the way that the designers proceeded.
Is
So
that online at this point, or is that?
it would be on the Trails Project
It is.
website with
Okay.
all the updates. So the last update that was given to the Board of Commissioners, which also have been provided to this board, those presentations are up there. The only thing you won't see there is any of the new design materials that are underway on the Radnor Trail that are currently
The
in
ones
process.
we'll see in a month or two, maybe.
It'll be presented, I'm sure, to the commissioners.
Okay, these.
And when it does, I'll make sure that you guys are updated so you're aware of what the
So
outcome
all of this
is.
is on the website. So I ask a dumb question, and I apologize. I
No
will go
dumb,
to the
no, there's no
website.
dumb questions. No dumb questions. And as far as the budget goes, so the budget items really capital, right now, the capital that we're utilizing for Fenimore is the remaining funds from the 2016 bond. So there was a major borrowing that took place that was able to complete Clemacrone, Warren Philippone, Beauconnor, a series of parks and projects, as well as the Radnor Memorial Library, which was within that bond as well. We're still working on the Fenimore portion, hopefully getting there soon. And that, all of the remaining funds with that bond will be spent on Fenimore to get the improvements done there and achieve the improvements there. The Park Impact Fund includes the developer funding per the land ordinance, which is constantly accruing money. As we know, there's lots of developments happening in and around town. And the Odorosio Park planning and the concept development has been funded out of that. However, we received a grant, which is paying for it. So anything that exceeds the grant will actually be utilized on Odorosio Park. And in addition to that, this board had passed a recommendation that basically said any of the funds in the Park Impact Fund are recommended to be used for Odorosio Park. So it doesn't mean that they're actually earmarked for that, because ultimately the Board of Commissioners would have to legislate that and make that happen. Ultimately, when that park project would come to fruition for funding for construction, but that funding, I know by this board, is something we'll continue to reiterate with the commissioners that has been recommended to be spent and utilized on that park project. So but that's not to say that if there's some emergency issue that pops up in parks that it needs to be addressed, that we wouldn't have to take money out of there. We certainly could potentially use it for something else if that occurs.
That's great, thank you. I mean, that cleared it up for me.
And
Yeah, I have one, just a follow-up on the trails, and I think you gave us the information before, if there's another update. The Tap Trail Cornerstone to Haverford Township.
yeah, we talked about that in detail a few months ago. I had actually prepared what the bridge crossing would look like with a bridge vendor, as well as all the engineering that would go into making that happen so that there could be a crossing. But that is a project that's in Haverford Township. So I know right now that we do have a trail that gets to the creek and it stops. And unless you're willing to really get wet and walk through the creek, you really can't cross. And then once you cross, it's not defined where you're going. But the entire time you're still in Haverford Township. So we have some discussions that have been ongoing on that potential project and working in partnership with Haverford Township to potentially construct some type of a bridge or some type of a crossing that can get you across the creek and then into Haverford Township, and then ultimately what would take you to the Haverford Reserve. Andy, I know there was a HOA meeting that had taken place
Yeah.
a couple months ago, and I know there's a petition that's been going around to try and spur that project.
Yeah, I mean, there was the homeowners association meeting for the Cornerstone development. I spoke at and mentioned this project because it's been the subject of a lot of questions from members of my neighborhood as well as people outside of the Cornerstone community. I know there's a lot of desire that it would continue down to the Haverford Preserve, but also the challenge is in Haverford Township, which apparently was not made aware of the construction of the TAP trail, but also it's in their land. So, Bill, in terms of an update, it's still not being used, but I think Tammy accurately summarized where things stand. I know in sort of these uncertain times with funding and things like that, it's hard to figure out what the next step would be, but there is a desire, and I think that it be extended to the preserve and really would open up a lot of opportunities for the rest of that trail that was built as part of the TAP. That part of the township can't easily get to the Radnor Trail. Getting to Haverford Preserve would be, I think, a huge benefit and make that potential of what was spent fully worthwhile.
Without being rude, and give me an idea, okay, what, if you could wave a magic wand, and I know you can't do that, we got a little football here, and we're gonna go back and forth here, but if you had to put a number on it, what would it take to build a bridge over that? Are we talking 100,000, 500?
Yeah, it's about 230, 250. I did that.
Oh,
I
did you?
actually met
Okay.
with engineers
So-
and came up with a whole plan
Oh,
and a
okay.
design.
So you're looking at 250?
Don't quote me on it, but it's in the
That's-
ballpark of
that's-
that. And it's
yeah.
and it is in our capital plan, so even
Oh,
though
it
this
is?
yeah, it is something that I had put within the capital plan. It's not funded, but
Right.
it is an identified project under the Radnor Tap
Right.
Trail.
Does
long
anyone
plan.
have any indication, is Haverford as eager or willing, or are they the least bit interested in helping out? Let's say that.
Well, trails are very important in Haverford Township.
Okay.
So we had a meeting, Andy, myself, and the head of the Radnor Trails Committee, as well as the Director of Parks and Recreation for Haverford Township, who I know pretty well. So just like they have their own
Yeah.
prioritization of projects, like we do, they have their
Right.
own. And this is something that is probably not at the top.
Yeah.
It's
Yep, okay.
They are working on other substantial trail projects currently. They are aware of this project, but it is definitely not something that's,
Yep.
at the top of their list currently. But with that being said, they have been open to the conversation on how
Yeah.
it might look if there was a partnership to do it.
I'm
and-
sure they'd be very happy if we built it and they were able to capitalize on it, but that's a normal thing.
I believe Commissioner Mulroney was looking to work with her counterpart in Haverford to sort of pursue certain avenues there, but I get the impression, I think Tammy reported back, there was sort of not the inertia to do anything.
Yeah.
So,
Yep, I understand.
yep.
And there's, the opportunity still sits there to look at alternatives as well, to how it could be done less substantially. And it obviously would, it would be a project that wouldn't be ADA, wouldn't, allow for, the safety and everything that an actual prefabricated bridge would entail. And then obviously there's a lot of site engineering and earthwork and site, testing to see how abutments and things like that are able and capable to be, laid in the ground appropriately from an engineering standpoint. There's a lot that goes into it to make it that sizable of a project.
Okay. You said the next three things, so that the Radnor Activity Center, the trail projects, and the Radnor Township Comprehensive Plan.
That is on the board's agenda for Monday night as well. The commissioners will be having a public hearing on the the comprehensive plan with a possible adoption.
So that's moving right along, huh?
Just any quick updates on the Brook Farm Trail? Any movement?
No, none currently.
Also, a quick question. I had a few patients I saw this week that were survivors of out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, young people that had arrhythmias and basically came back. Where are we at with defibrillators in our park system? Can we identify the buildings and parks that have them currently?
So we have a project in our capital plan to fund them. That is a project that is looking for funding, among a lot of others. Right now, we do not have them in our parks. We have them in our buildings. We have them at Radnor Activity Center. We have them at this building, the Public Works building, where they are managed on a regular basis by a company that monitors them, updates the pads and the batteries and everything when appropriate, comes out quarterly, and does evaluations and everything on them. So currently, some of the sports organizations may bring them and have them. For instance, Radnor Wayne Little League very well may have a defibrillator in one of the sheds over here at Enki that maybe is available while there's play going on, but there's none that are currently publicly accessible. Again, it's a project, it's a sizable cost,
Sure.
as well as ongoing maintenance annually, and it sits within our capital plan.
Are there standards for parks to have them that are unattended?
There are not.
Yeah, it's just a challenge how you secure those devices in outdoor locations.
Sure, and there are boxes where they would be secure, and they would be mounted on comfort stations, on freestanding poles, and things like that. So there is a plan that we have to do that. We have a company called Tri-State Consulting who manages them for all of our buildings that we worked with several years ago to put that plan together. And every year that it's not funded, it has to be, obviously re-updated in terms of what the costs are.
Is there a list of where they're at currently? Or is there a comprehensive list of where defibrillators are in township buildings or even non-township owned properties?
I'm not aware of anything.
No,
I just know
not
that
park
they're
board
here
issue.
at this building. We have several, one on each floor, one in our fitness room here, as well as one at the entry of Radnor Activity Center. And then, of course, our Public Works building, which isn't necessarily a publicly accessible building, has them throughout the garage bays, the mechanics bays, as well as the building.
Sulpicia?
Yes, that's what I said,
Okay.
yep, in the entryway.
Ooh, sorry, yeah, it would be nice to have them everywhere, but to start, have them at our big hitters, Enki, South Devon, Tennelle, wherever there's crowds of people both.
High-capacity events
Yeah.
with potential for
Yeah,
somebody to
and
drop.
most of those spots, we have sheds, and you could, for now, just keep it in the shed instead of some NEMA pack outside or whatever, because they have the ability to, they open the sheds anyway for the stuff. But I would start with that first. Do our police still have them in their cars?
They do, yes.
A naive question. Are there any liability issues at all by not having them? And I go to my lawyers, my fellow lawyers.
I'll give you the answers I get paid to give. You can sue anybody for anything at any time. If you don't do something, they'll say you should have. If you did something, you didn't do it the right way. The township does have certain protections, sovereign immunity here, which protects from what would be normal tort liability in a lot of cases, with some exceptions. So probably not a high-risk issue either way, but that then becomes a public issue as to what is public policy, which is best.
And just of note, when you have all your great events, I know you have a portable one that you have with you, so just for the public to know they're there. So.
We do, and we have several of them, and when we operate at our day camp specifically and our wizarding camp, we have several of them. We actually have first aid backpacks that have heart sign units in them. But one of the things we also do is we train all the staff to be able to use it. so that they're aware of how it operates. Because not all of them look and feel the same way, even though they are pretty well self-guided. But if you're trained on a heart sign pack, it's not always the same as being trained on the life pack. Like, it is different. But so that's something that we always try to make sure that we have, is that the proper training in place on the packs that are deployed at those particular sites.
Okay. All right then. Parks and Rec Board Members Park Steward Program. Anybody have anything to report?
I have a question. I know that a couple of months ago, we approved the cleaning of the pond with a lot of the algae and things that were growing. Was that effective? What's the feedback on that?
It was extremely effective. It basically took a blanket of muck, filamentous muck that was laying on the pond, and it completely opened it up. So it was extremely effective. However, the thing to keep in mind is that without a continued plan to fix the pond, meaning, there's subsurface sedimentation that, continues to fester. Once we get to the warmer temperatures, it's going to come back. So it's definitely a procedure that I would be recommending again. If we get to June, we get to July, to have to do that. The bigger project in the long term, to reduce the sedimentation that's built up inside the pond. I mean, we have very short depths in the pond. I think I did a presentation before we moved forward with that project, to kind of demonstrate that, we're losing oxygenated levels in the pond because of so much sedimentation and so much growth that's taking place. There has to be a mid and a long-term plan to remove that. It's very expensive. Again, another project that sits within the capital budget, or projects, because there's a few of them to get it where it needs to be, so that we end up with a situation where we can add aerators to the pond and then not have to worry so much about having the accumulation every year once the weather changes and we're not getting rain for long periods of time, and there's definitely the heat rises and causes those things to grow.
I was going to put a plug in for the Radnor Trout Derby, but it seems like it's very full.
It's full usually within an hour of opening.
It's full. And that's only at Sawmill? Do they
Yes.
stock in other spots other than Sawmill?
They do. We usually get a list, but various locations along the Darby Creek.
Okay.
And the Ithan Creek as well.
How many total participants for that? Just curious.
Across each of the days, we usually have 50 to 60 in each.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other public comments or public participation? None? Ready to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Good night all.